Hello guys, today is going to be something new. I'm starting a new trend with this channel talking about character analysis. Now the first character I'm going to be talking about for the channel, it might be a little light, but it's Cassie Howard from Euphoria. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Rico, why are you talking about a character from Euphoria? Euphoria is a freaky ass show. And you're right, it is a freaky show, but there's more to it than that. If you're able to get past all the freaky stuff, you'll be able to see how much of a great written show it is. But if you're uncomfortable with those scenes, I understand. But I'll be talking about Cassie's character, who's played by Sydney Sweeney. And you know what I'm saying? You know, Sydney Sweeney, the song Ken Carson sung about her and shit. But that's not the reason why I like the writing of this character. I'll be explaining it. In this video, I'll be explaining a few things. I'll be explaining the intro first, what Euphoria is. And I'll be explaining the development and background. I'll be explaining her personality and themes and symbolisms. And I'll be explaining my conclusion towards it. Now, her character arc isn't finished due to season 3 being 2 years from now. It'll take a while. I may do a part 2 to it, but who knows? I may be too busy with college and shit to notice. But let's begin. Now, this show captures many problems of the real world, such as domestic abuse, substance abuse, promiscuity, and many more. Now, this show also has many themes that are really great, such as escapism, depression, impact on the environment, and many more. Now, some of these really capture on who Cassie is, and I'll be explaining her development on how she became the person she became. Now let's begin. Now, as far as we can go back, Cassie's father was pretty much adored by other women, and other women would just adore him due to his looks, which upsetted her mother. They soon began arguing, and she saw the fights. She saw the fights when they were young, and her sister saw everything about it, and she was pretty much upset by it. But despite her dad not being able to hold a job, she was soon able to become a skater briefly and knew how to ice skate. Her dad encouraged it until he wasn't able to afford it. And then she started puberty. She had a massive growth spurt since her hormones acted up, but this led to some of her family members acting weird, and then later on being sexualized by other people. We saw this so much, even in the show, but soon led to disaster. Her family soon started to fall apart. Her mom and dad split due to the dad's alcoholism and the mom's supposed implied infidelity. Now, we get to see how this impacted her and her sister, but mainly her, since we're talking about Cassie here. The dad would try his best to try to hang out with her and her sister, but he began to visit little by little. And then all of a sudden, he got into a car crash due to his alcohol drinking. He was in the hospital for many weeks, and he got hooked on painkillers, and he became an addict. She would try to text her dad time from time, but to no avail. Until one of these days, her dad texts her from an anonymous phone number, asking for help. And when we get a first glance at the dad, he really showed signs that he was a drug addict. And it pretty much showed. He only came to see Cassie because he wanted something. And it's implied that he sold the stuff that he got for drugs. This devastated her because her dad abandoned her two times. And he only came back because he wanted something, which led her to feeling unloved. This has been shown with her past relationships with her boyfriends, where she constantly seeks male validation, but then it backfires when they sexualize her by sending nudes and videos of her online for the world to see, which made her very insecure. And during that, he befriended a girl named Maddie, who became her best friend. And then Cassie then joined in the cheerleading squad. She then started to date a college freshman named McKay, who also played college football. But Nate revealed to McKay that there were videos and photos of her all over online, and pretty much calling Cassie the school bop, which made McKay see Cassie in another light. And due to the stress that he already feels for football, this pretty much puts a strain on Cassie's relationship. This is also shown when he feels insecure about saying Cassie's his girlfriend. When Nate asks, he just says that they're not, and really makes Cassie really upset. And she calls him out on it, and he feels at that point that he's feeling unloved and unsupported by her boyfriend. She is then met up by Maddie, who invites her to do Molly. She then goes to hook up with another guy named Daniel. Oh yeah, something I forgot to mention before is that he did support her boyfriend when he was trying to get initiated in a sorority house. And more problems arise when Cassie begins to feel more unloved by McKay. He then hooks up with Daniel again, and after rejecting his sexual advances again because of second thoughts, he soon calls her boring and telling her that boys only like her for her body and she has no personality, which makes her even more insecure. And then it goes down even further when she is revealed to be pregnant, as she initially wanted to keep the baby, but is pressured by McKay to not keep the baby. While it is correct that they're both not in a mental state to keep the baby, he does it in a way where he's not really showing support. He then decides to get the abortion, and pretty much her and McKay broke up off screen later on. Most likely is due to poor communication skills and due to the issues I said before. Then at her lowest moment, she is soon met by Nate, Maddie's ex-boyfriend. He ends up being very manipulative towards Cassie by playing the victim, guilt-tripping, and pretty much emotionally manipulating her by making her fearful of being found out, all to be dependent on him, as she fears about Maddie finding out and becomes obsessed with pleasing Nate Jacobs because he's searching for male validation. He then dresses up like Maddie to get the attention of Nate Jacobs. This is showing her unhealthy obsession towards Nate Jacobs, as she puts on makeup and dresses up at 4 in the morning, all to impress and get the attention of Nate, as she keeps trying to convince herself that Nate likes her and what he's doing isn't wrong. She then grows envious of Maddie due to Maddie and Nate talking about getting back together, and she begins to develop hatred towards Maddie, as she wanted Nate all to herself, and she's willing at that point to do anything just to get attention and have Nate to herself. And during the hot tub scene, she does show slight remorse for what she's done, as deep down, subconsciously, she knows what she's doing is wrong. Later on, she's found out when Rue exposes her on the fact that he has been with Nate the entire time, which ruins her relationship with Maddie completely. In this scene, she tries to gaslight everyone to not believe Rue because she's a drug addict, and when that doesn't work, she plays the victim on all of this. This really devastates Cassie as she begins to contemplate suicide during this scene. She also begins to take her aggression out on her family, and she also stated that her life was way more harder than Rue's life. At that point, she's just showing how combative he is and how this new personality is just way more spoken than how he is in season 1. And during Lexi's show, when Nate feels embarrassed that they're showcasing his alleged sexuality in front of everyone, and after he walks out, he breaks up with Cassie because he blames her for what her sister did. Cassie is already infuriated and starts crashing out because she already felt embarrassed with Lexi showcasing her deepest secrets for everyone to see. He then tries to ruin Lexi's show by humiliating her on stage, as she felt that her ego was wounded and that he lost Nate, and he blames her and everyone else. And then when Lexi begins to showcase her cringe-worthy moment in season 1, Cassie freaks out and attacks the girl playing her on stage. Then Maddie, simply being fed up with Cassie, soon chases her along with her friends, and Maddie begins to try to beat up Cassie. Then after the off-screen fight, we soon get to see them in the bathroom stall together, with Cassie simply saying that it's funny that Nate broke up with her before all of that happened, with Maddie soon telling her it's only the beginning. This can mean that he is warning her that he hasn't seen the full extent of what Nate can do. This is pretty good development because Cassie goes from a soft-spoken, promiscuous girl who cared about her friends in season 1 to a self-destructive girl who is willing to do anything to gain attention and love she never got, even if it meant throwing her family and friends under the bus. Now, I'm going to be talking about her themes and what he portrays here. There are a lot of themes that he portrays, so I'm going to be naming them. The first one is Sigmund Freud's theory. If you don't know who Sigmund Freud is, he's basically the father of psychoanalysis. But what's important is that he discovered a theory which is the id, the ego, and the superego. Now, this represents the 3 structural model of the human soul. This idea with Sigmund Freud has been used to describe every character in the show, well, every major character, to describe how they are and how they structure their soul. I'll be explaining the id and how it affects Cassie. The id acts as the impulsive and unconscious desire within the human. With Cassie, he is often shown to soft cheat on McKay and hook up with Nate Jacobs, despite knowing that that's Maddie's ex. The superego often acts as a conscience. With Cassie, it's often shown when he has self-doubt and guilt through her actions. Now, the ego acts as the actions of the person, as Cassie is often shown to act on her impulsive desires while having to face the societal expectations of the environment around her. Now, while the ego will often indulge with the id's desires, it also has to face the superego's conscience, as the ego acts as the mediator between the two. Now, the id's desire is caused from her father complex and a desire to be loved. Now, with the self-doubt and guilt that is the superego, it is likely shaped from her insecurities throughout the years, with those moments helping build that structure for her. Now that I explained that theme, another theme we gotta talk about is addiction. With Cassie, she is addicted to love. A great example of this would be in season 2, as she puts so much energy in dressing up, putting on makeup, all to gain male validation. Because with validation, she'll feel loved. Love he never even got from her dad. As Nate is supposed to represent her dad and her constant need to gain the approval that she never got from her dad. Another theme we gotta talk about that's similar to addiction is escapism. Now, escapism is an idea to describe when people distract themselves from reality as they don't want to face the reality they're in. Now, Cassie indulges in these actions when she feels unloved. Take this scene for example. When he feels like he's unsupported by McKay, he soon hooks up with another guy that he hooked up previously with, which is also another example of escapism, because he does this in a way to escape the reality of feeling unloved. Now, with Euphoria having a big theme for escapism, as each character has their own way to escape reality, this characteristic of escapism fits Cassie very well. Now for a little bit of narcissism. Of course, Cassie isn't a full-blown narcissist, but he does show a little bit of signs of being a narcissist. Like with her attention-seeking behavior, as she prioritized herself to gain attention while lacking the fact that she can harm others. And also, a need for validation is also a key factor of narcissism. And also, victim blaming is a thing here, which is a new trait he picked up, as he played the victim when Maddie confronted her and she just started crying and not taking responsibility. But like I said, he shows signs of narcissism, but he's not really a full-blown narcissist. Now, I'm going to be talking about the symbolisms that Cassie has, as he always wore either blue or pink colors throughout the entire show. Now, anytime Cassie is seen wearing blue colors, it's often symbolizing her sadness and loneliness. Specifically when he's wearing baby blue, like in this scene, he's often shown to have very emotional scenes, which express her sadness and loneliness. And pink symbolizes her need for love and her passion for it, as shown in this scene where he wears a pink bikini to try to get the attention of Nate Jacobs, as he constantly needs his validation. during this scene in episode 4 of season 2. Now, when he wears bright blue colors, which he's dressing up as Alabama Worley from the movie True Romance, well, yes, it also symbolizes sadness and loneliness, but with all the makeup he wears throughout the seasons, all the clothing he wears, it often symbolizes her need for validation. Well, he's also symbolizing her lack of identity, as he takes inspiration from other people and not from herself. Now I'm gonna be sharing a parallel / dynamic, starting with Rue, since they're both very similar but in very different ways. Like Cassie, Rue also suffers from addiction. But a different type of addiction, as Rue suffers from drug addiction. Now, their addictions are really similar because they have a similar way of doing it. While yes, Rue has done drugs before in the past due to her mental disorders, it got worse when she experienced her dad having cancer and her dad passing away. Both Rue and Cassie lost their fathers in different ways, yes, but it also left them with fear of abandonment. Now, both of their addictions can be explained. There's subconscious reasons for doing it. For Rue, he wants to feel closer to her dad. For Cassie, she wants to feel love that she never got from her own father. Now, they do share the common themes throughout the entire show, such as addiction, escapism, and etc., as their origins for doing it are very similar. Well, yes, it's different due to Rue's dad dying of cancer and due to Cassie's dad abandoning her. Okay, well, yes, their character arcs are very different and their personality is different. You also got to look at their common themes and what they share, and their dynamics and parallels really show that. Now we gotta talk about Cassie's ex-best friend, Maddie. Now, like Cassie, Maddie also has her own addiction. She's addicted to living a lavish lifestyle. A lavish lifestyle of a housewife who doesn't really do much other than be at the house while living and going out in their lavish lifestyle. Now, watching her mom give pedicures to these lavish housewives, she saw two roads she can go to. One, be the one giving the housewives pedicures, or one, be the housewife receiving the pedicure while living the lavish lifestyle. And yes, they do share more than just their themes of addiction, such as paralleling their love for Nate. Just like how Maddie argued with her parents about her Nate, as she was trying to justify Nate's actions and say that he loves Nate and that Nate loves her, by then arguing and attacking her family. The same thing Cassie did in season 2. And also, this love for Nate also ties in with their themes. For Cassie, it's an addiction for love, and for Maddie, it's an addiction to a lavish lifestyle. For Cassie, her dependency on Nate is an addiction for love. For Maddie, her dependency on Nate was an addiction for a lavish lifestyle and to live luxurious, and a loving husband who will pamper her and love her. Now, the final person we gotta talk about is Nate Jacobs and how he parallels and shares dynamics with Cassie. Now, throughout the show, we've seen how manipulative Nate can be. It's caused by a traumatic childhood in the past. Now, when Nate was a young boy, he discovered his dad's personal stash. And if you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. You know how he discovered how freaky his dad is, as he's seen his dad's personal encounters with other people that his dad personally filmed. This shaped Nate's sexuality and a need for control, and it also led him to be fearful of becoming his father, as his need for control turned into a toxic habit of validation for his masculinity and a need to control others. Now, this scene completely shows the dynamic between the two, as this also shows how manipulative Cassie is, as she's willing to blackmail Nate in order for Nate to stay with her, when Nate was doing the same thing from the beginning. This scene really shows how similar they are in personalities and in writing, as their motive is for validation and ties in with their themes of addiction. For Nate, it's control. For Cassie, it's love. Now, I really like how Euphoria often highlights the similarities they show between the characters. It really highlights how well connected everyone is to the show. Well, time to give my conclusion. I gotta say, she's a pretty solid character. I'll give like a 6 or 7 out of 10. And I do think Euphoria is a good show, but if you're sensitive to what it shows, like the explicit scenes of like nudity and drug abuse and shit, then I highly suggest you don't watch it if you're sensitive to that type of topic. But if you aren't, it is a good show if you're able to get past all the freaky stuff happening, like I said before. But I have to give thoughts on my predictions. And I gotta say, yes, she can be redeemed. While yes, I also see her as the main antagonist of Season 3 due to the way she transformed by the end of Season 2. But even though I say she could be redeemed, I don't think her relationship with her friends will ever be the same, especially her relationship with Maddie. And we gotta wait till Season 3 comes out. We don't know the confirmed date. We know it may be in 2026 or longer. Now, Season 3 was supposed to be out long ago, but due to the strikes happening back then, and due to Angus Cloud dying, and I think one of the producers died, and I think some of the actors quit, it's been delayed. But yeah, that's all I know for when Season 3 of Euphoria would be coming out. We don't know the confirmed date yet. It could be in 2026. That's what the potential is. Now, bear with me. I want to thank y'all for watching this video. And this is my first analysis video, so I don't expect it to be great, but I am trying. And I will get better as I do more analysis video later on. I'll do it at more complex characters like Walter White, Johann Liebert, Aaron from Attack on Titan, and etc. But I'm also planning other projects in the future. But anyways, that's all. See you on the next vid. Peace.